Hot takes! Piping hot takes! Get your hot takes! You ever watch something that everyone loves? Everyone but you? And you just didn't understand? Or couldn't understand? Or refused to understand? Yeah, me too. It's been a long time since I've made one of these, but there's still some movies out there that most people can't seem to get enough of. But I can. I can get enough of them. Oh, and again, for the third time, I don't necessarily hate every movie on this list, but hate sells, so here we go. 16 Candles is like if you took every bad thing about 80s pop culture and put it in one movie. The shitty fashion, the shitty music, the shitty slang, the characters are all tropes, Molly Ringwald is in it. This movie is as cringe can be. I mean, come on, just look at this fucking idiot. I don't know, I guess I just think of the 80s as a low point in pop culture, and this movie just represents every negative aspect of that to me. Hereditary. I thought Hereditary was boring, and not scary. But that's okay, most horror movies don't really scare me, even the ones I like. I just didn't like Hereditary. It has its moments, you know the one, like it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but overall, meh. The only thing in Hereditary that made me uncomfortable was the little girl, because she's fucking hideous. Looking at her made me want to vomit. And before you jump down my throat that I'm ugly shaming a child, they did put makeup on this actress to make her look like this, so I'm more shitting on the way they made her look. But my reaction was more disgust than fear. Does that make sense? It was like watching an episode of Ren and Stimpy. Just gross for the sake of being gross, no other reason. But I also don't like what Hereditary has come to stand for. This is now viewed as the crown jewel in the elevated horror subgenre. Let me explain something to you. Elevated horror is just a douchey way of saying good horror. Yes, I'm aware the horror genre took a nosedive for a long time and that most horror movies have cheap jump scares and aren't actually scary. But that doesn't mean you cling to the couple horror movies that have come out recently that don't have jump scares but are boring and still not scary. Both things suck. Want to watch a great horror movie that came out in the past 10 years? Watch As Above, So Below. That's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. You can have that recamo for free. Titanic. I think Cumtown said it best when they said that the reason Titanic did so well internationally is because the script is basic enough to translate and the plot is that a poor guy gets to fuck a rich woman. Which, if you're a poor guy growing up in a third world country, is pretty much the hope that keeps you alive. I was gonna mention Avatar in this video too, but I don't think everyone likes Avatar anymore. It's now considered the most overrated film of all time, which I think automatically means that it isn't overrated. If everyone thinks something is overrated, it's not. Everyone hates it. It's just a remake of Dances with Wolves, except they're blue. Da-ba-dee, da-ba-die, da-ba-dee, da-ba... Donnie Darko. I have to admit, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I think I watched it like 13 or 14 years ago at this point. But I do kind of remember it not making any sense or having any point, while also being kinda smug about it. Is that an accurate memory? There's a version of it for free on YouTube, though. I skimmed that. The rabbit warns Donnie that the world will end, and then he realizes he needs to die. But then what was the point of taking him out of his room and saving his life if he was supposed to die? Every scene of this movie feels like it's supposed to be in another movie. Jake Gyllenhaal is great in it, but that's not enough to save it. It does have this gem, though.
Hey, Porky Pig. I hope you get molested.
Just kidding. Fight Club rules. When I first watched Eraserhead, I thought I was gonna watch the strangest, most fucked up film ever. And instead it was so boring I had to stop watching. Then years later, I tried to watch it again, thinking maybe I didn't give it a chance, or that this time around I'd find it so bad it was good, and it was so boring I had to stop watching. People cite this film as a surrealist nightmare masterpiece, but 90% of this movie is a sad, forlorn man just staring off into space. And yes, I know it's unique. I'm aware there's never been a movie like it, but there's a reason for that. This movie is gobbledygook. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And neither does the next one. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a bad movie that uses incredible music, visual effects, and cinematography to trick you into thinking it's a good movie. And let me be clear, I would never take that stuff away from it. This film got its reputation because of those things, and I respect those aspects of it. But none of those things make this movie make any sense. And they're not in the film enough to make up for the boring parts. This film is agonizingly slow. And there are plenty of movies I like that are a little slow, but there doesn't seem to be anything driving the plot along. The entire first act is a bunch of gorillas hitting each other with sticks for like half an hour. The second act is definitely the only part of the movie with an actual plot, but has nothing to do with the story bookending it. And the third act doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The movie suffers from Kubrick syndrome, a trait it shares with Full Metal Jacket, where the movie feels like multiple different movies bound together into one movie without complementing each other. The result winds up being an incoherent mess. The second act is the closest the film comes to telling an actual story, and it's still so fucking slow. The first and third acts of this film attempt to tell some story about the monolith and how it hyper-evolves whatever it touches, but this is never explained in the movie. I know about it because I looked it up after I watched it, and that's the reason you know about it too, unless you read the book. And if you can't figure out what a film is trying to say while actually watching it, that's a serious narrative problem. I know they say films should show, don't tell, but this movie really needed to tell, because what it shows us doesn't make any fucking sense. Like I said, 2001 has the cinematography, the visuals, and the music to sell itself on. But a film is the sum of its parts. How many times do I have to fucking say that? And the other parts of this film suck. 2001 isn't just overrated, it's fucking pretentious. The definition of pretentious is attempting to impress by affecting greater importance than is actually possessed. I cannot think of a film that better fits this definition. Beneath all the cool space shit is a film that has no substance but is masquerading like it does, and that's bad movie. That being said, it's better than any of the other films on this list, and they're all better than this one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Do you agree with anything I said? Disagree? Write them comments. And like, subscribe, and consider donating $1 to my Patreon, because I'm a panhandler.